Hi, how are ya? We haven't spoken so long. I've been off the grid, busy, eating mushrooms with monkeys, hanging out in hammocks. There's one. This episode, I was kicking it with my man Tristan Miller, the bipolar comedian from New York. Paid us a visit before he went on stage and killed it for the Mind Matters program with Mayo Clinic. Shout out to Brian Austin for holding it down, putting it together, and of course the Mayo Clinic for talking about a topic that is tough for people to talk about, and that's mental health. And we've got Where the Minds Meet coming up Friday, November 1st. Go to Eventbrite, get your tickets. That is Eventbrite/Where the Minds Meet. Look it up. Dr. Gabor Mate, Dr. Dennis McKenna, Dr. Joe Tafur, and we've got a couple more yet to be announced, waiting on contracts. We want all of you in attendance because we are going to go deep.
Hi, it's me, Nikolai. You know I've been off the grid. Here I am, returning from the nether region of our planet with a handful of diamonds. Some of that clear rock, if you get my drift. Lapidary Jewelers, your original custom jeweler.
Yo, it's me. Just returned from Area 51. Invaded it. Yeah. I brought them some of them KATO CBD hemp seeds. Planted them all over Area 51. Provided all the aliens with some of that KATO CBD. Now they're all medicated. Check them out online, katocbd.com. Use code word astronaut for 10% off.
And I'm gonna be high as a fucking man.
And now, the stationary astronaut.
Bubble. I'm here with Tristan Miller, the bipolar comedian. What's shaking, bro?
My leg, because I'm hyperactive. Yeah. About to do a show, so I'm like half here, half in my own mind.
Yeah. I kind of grabbed you beforehand because I figured, bro, we got 35 minutes. Let's just crush it out right now. That way you can be fully focused on the performance.
Absolutely. I appreciate that.
So you're here for what comedy festival?
It's not a comedy festival. It's like a mixed medium performance art. It's called the Minnesota Fringe Festival.
Okay.
So there's dance, there's mime, there's storytelling, there's all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
Fringe Fest.
Yeah, Fringe Festival.
I've heard of Fringe Fest.
Yeah.
But here we are, the bipolar comedian at the Mind Matters program.
Yeah.
So this is something put on by Mayo Clinic. Tonight is, I believe, speaker event number 1.
Really? I'm the first one.
No, we're in August. It was in July.
Okay. Oh, man.
I got to get my shit together. No, but it's very interesting because when you had reached out to me, and then the woman who's putting this thing on kind of gave me some backlight on you. And I was like, oh, it goes deeper. There's layers to this.
Oh, yeah. I'm like a parfait, you know.
Basically.
Or a cake, or an onion, or an ogre.
So you're living in New York now?
Yeah, I'm over in New York. I'm from Rochester, but I live in New York. I went to school out there in like 2010, and then I moved back, and then I moved back.
Are we talking art school or high school?
We are talking post-secondary, a conservatory for acting, which is how you know I am still in student debt.
Yeah. Do you spend a lot of your time auditioning?
Not as much time as I would like, but most of it, like some of it, I'm like, I work at a preschool to make money, and then I'm auditioning, and then since I'm doing stand-up now, I'm either auditioning or editing my podcasts, or I'm doing stand-up constantly when I'm not chasing after children.
Would you consider yourself an alternative comedian?
I would say, due to the subject matter, I'm kind of forced into that slot. Yeah, I would say my stuff is kind of offbeat, and it's not like about like how my girlfriend sucks or the politics or anything. It's like, yeah, it's pretty weird.
When were you diagnosed with bipolarism?
Well, it runs in my family, so we kind of always had a little suspicion. But formerly it was...
So Thanksgiving food was hot and cold?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I think around, it must have been like 2000 and late 2014. Yeah, was when I got an official diagnosis.
When you got that official diagnosis, did you feel stigma came with it?
I did and I didn't. Luckily, my friends and my family are very, very supportive and that sort of thing. But I would say in general, it was like, how do I bring this up? And like, do I bring this up? Like every job I've held, I've not like checked that box, you know, because they go, do you have any disabilities? And bipolar's there. And since I kind of don't consider it a disability because I'm luckily pretty high functioning, I'm like, no, I'm fine. So there is a certain level of stigma that I just, and it's like, for me, I kind of view it as like, it's none of your business, you know, unless it is. But in general, I felt very, very lucky to be supported by my friends and family. Yeah. So a little bit to answer your question succinctly.
Well, when you become aware of it through a diagnosis from a person with letters behind their name.
Yeah.
Where they tell you, no, this is what you got. All the while it was just a book of psychology that they go down it with symptoms, right?
Yeah.
And when you get the diagnosis, because I've been diagnosed as well, and I put quotations up because they got to the point where they didn't know what to diagnose me with. Is it ADHD? Is it ASPD? Is it bipolarism? We don't know. Let's throw a label on it. Shout out to the court system. But anyways, it was mandated. But anyways, no, but when you get that, it like makes you uber self-aware.
Oh, sure.
Where it's like, am I being kind of off right now? Am I am I hot or cold right now? Maybe I should dial it in if I'm getting a little bit more hyperactive than usual, a little bit more obsessive than usual.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really fine balance, and it almost is a shame because you kind of end up almost gaslighting yourself with it, of like constantly, do I feel good? Do I feel too good? And you kind of have a hard time, specifically at first, like just being present with whatever's going on with you. I feel really lucky over the course of the last few years of like, it's what it is, man. Like, and it's also kind of a similar thing of like, you kind of have to monitor it, but in the same way, like someone has diabetes, you have to like check in, but it's not your whole life, hopefully, you know.
Now, we all, because I think technology is doing something to us. Oh, yeah. In regards to, obviously, our short attention spans, hot
Sorry,
and cold.
what'd you say?
Exactly. He's a comedian, folks. He does this. Dun-dun-dun. If only I had a drum kit. Okay, so anyways, I lost focus. There's part of the symptoms.
The technology.
But the technology is making us aware of, wait a minute, people who aren't diagnosed, we could point it out. We could label them.
Oh, sure.
You know, and it's like we just kind of went and got a diagnosis. Did you ever get put on medication for it?
I'm on medication now, but it was a choice. I wasn't like forced into it. It got to a point where I'm like, basically, I've done all I can on my own, and I need a new step, a new kind of solution, and it made sense, and I've been on it for, I think, 4 months now, so it's a pretty new change, but it's been really, really helpful. It's just cut the bottom and the top off. I still have, like, I still feel joy, I still feel anxious, like, but it just makes, like, the temper go down. It makes, like, it's less likely for me to get sick, which is really, really nice.
That's interesting. You label it sick.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's kind of how I view it, because of the fact that, like, it's not all the time, you know, and that's, I think, a common misconception is that you're either up or you're down the whole time. And it's like, no, I feel kind of bad for people who just have depression, because a lot of the time they are depressed all of the time. And I'm like, I couldn't stand that. I get it, why you're cranky. But since I'm kind of, you know, normal and moderate now, when I have these episodes of either depression or the hypomanias, it's like I view it as getting ill, just the same way you would, you know, have to take care of yourself if you had the flu or whatever. And the medication helps stabilize that, and like I go to therapy, and I'm sober, and so I'm like really, like, I got to a point where I'm like, if I want, like, it's so hard to make it in the arts anyway, stop tying one hand behind your back. Yeah.
In a nutshell, and I see that in the game of sales as well. Alcoholic salesman. It's like, dude, how are you going to try to go pretend to be happy with people when you're miserable, you're hungover, you're not someone who's awesome to be around?
Yeah, absolutely. We've all seen Mad Men, you know, yeah.
And we've all seen Wolf of Wall Street.
Exactly. Like,
it eventually dials itself back.
It eats away at you, you know?
Did you self-medicate at all?
Oh boy, did I. Yeah, specifically like during and right out of schooling. Like I remember being so afraid when I was like 20, 21, and like I had no idea what mood I was going to wake up in. And so if I knew I got drunk, I knew I was going to at least be depressed. And then when I felt depressed, I would drink too much caffeine. I never got into like hard drugs or anything, thank God. But yeah, there was a huge problem with that, and like not treating people well and not treating myself well. Yeah.
That's the most important thing, is the self-love part of it. Accepting I might have a what some would call flaws.
Yeah.
And then bipolarism, it kind of hides itself behind self-sabotage.
Oh, absolutely.
Oftentimes.
Oh, yeah.
Where we just burn bridges, we go off the rails, and then alcohol certainly doesn't help that.
Absolutely. And it's like everything is somebody else's fault, not mine. You don't like me, so I don't like me, and I don't like you because you don't like me, that kind of stuff. Yeah, and it's really difficult because of the fact like you just don't have control over your own emotions, and so you're no fun to be around a lot of the time. But the other half of the time, you really are. And I think a lot of people, I think actually most people who have bipolar disorder are incredibly sensitive. And what you get into is like how you cope with that, and the defense mechanisms you have. They need to be healthy. Pardon me. But yeah, it was like when you're drinking, that's not healthy. It's gonna make things worse, and being like emotionally defensive. I remember getting into a lot of heated arguments over nothing because I felt like they didn't like me.
Have you ever found yourself quite often in loner mode? Or are you a social butterfly across the board?
No. I love going home, and I love sitting with either just me or my girlfriend and just not doing anything. Because it is also one of those, like, with being a comedian, being an actor, like, and also working with kids, and then before that I was a server. That's a lot of people you're dealing with. So when I get home, I'm like, no thanks, I'm good. I just want to play Zelda. I'm fine. But
while looking like Zelda.
Yes, both. I morph into. I was playing, like, when I was really drinking heavily, I was playing Skyrim a bunch, and my roommates had a bunch of weird eclectic stuff, and so I was playing the game, and I was drunk all the time, and I was playing the game, and I was in my house in Whiterun, and I was like, here's an old book, here's an antler, and I looked around the apartment, and I was like, here's an old book, here's an antler. What's real? What's happening here? I'm confused. Am I the Dragonborn? What is okay? So
I'm not going to skip over the fact you had antlers laying on your floor. What the hell's going on?
My family's from South Dakota. I was living with my sister. She was like, this is a beautiful artifact of the wilderness. And I was like, oh sure, okay, that's fine. Bring that in. Why not? Live a little.
Does she live out in New York as well?
Yeah. Oh, she's moving back, but yeah, she has lived there for a while. Yeah.
So is it school that brought you out there?
Yeah. I tried to get into the U of M, and then they didn't accept me. I had a panic attack, cut off all my hair, and then just applied to any school that would have me.
You pulled the Pink Floyd?
Yeah.
You just shaved it all off?
Just very, very short. I had it like down to my shoulders, and I just like got rid of all of it. Yeah. Because I was just like, because I did the audition, and this is kind of the sensitivity we were talking about. I did the audition, and at one point I pulled my hair away from my eyes, and I saw one of the auditioner like write something down, and I was like, oh, they can't stand that my hair's in my face, and like I got hyper fixated on that, and so I was like, if I just cut my hair, I'll be a better actor. I don't know why that was the case.
So you live to the extreme.
Yes and no. I mean, I think I certainly did, but now once again, it's more about just trying. The older I get, the more I value being calm. And when you're younger, I think everyone kind of chases excitement. And I think the older you get, you're more like, oh, no, things should be kind of stable. And you really crave that. And I've been really leaning into it this year, and it's been incredibly helpful.
I mean, I just tell my Mom, yeah, I do crazy shit, but at least I'm not doing heroin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Not yet. Give it time. No.
Hey, shut it. Shut your dirty mouth. It's a first time for everything.
Yeah.
know if you've ever had quickly once the doctors, especially at Mayo Clinic, start giving you pain medication after a surgery.
Oh, yeah.
You know whether you're going to end up a dope fiend. I don't like
yeah.
to be tired. I
Yeah.
hate being tired. So I knew right away when those Percocets are putting me to sleep.
Yep.
Nah, I'm going to flush these things. I'm going to just deal with it.
Absolutely. I understand the same way. I'm like, that's one of the other reasons I stopped drinking, because I would go out with friends and I wasn't as funny. I wasn't as present. I wasn't as like fun to be around. And so I was like, I hate this. This is making me more anxious. It's terrible. And then also I realized I was drinking because I don't like being around drunk people. And so I was drinking to just like being able to ignore people. Like, well, then why are you out? You know, why are you doing this to yourself, Tristan?
And someone like yourself who has a bright spirit, it's very tough. It's very tough when you start becoming aware of what alcohol is doing to your spirit.
Oh, absolutely.
When you're just the no fun police all the time, you're a Debbie Downer, you're a pessimist. You're no fun to be around, let alone deal with yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really, it does kind of change your personality in a way. And it's really frustrating because you know it when you're in it. And you just keep doing it anyway, you know.
How long have you been doing this traveling sideshow act?
This is actually the first round for the tour, the Minnesota Fringe Festival, and then now tonight. But I'm hoping to tour to more Fringe festivals next summer and then get a few stops in between. I've been doing this show in New York, though, for over a year, workshopping it and writing material.
So you're dialed in.
I'm dialed in. I will be present and engaged with people.
I never ask my comedian friends. I never ask. I almost did it to Theo Vaughn. I had him out here last year. I almost did it to him where I almost asked, are you ready? Why are you asking a professional if they're fucking ready? You say, go kick some ass. You got this.
Yes. Yeah.
It's the flip side.
Yeah.
Where it's basically a paradigm shift of the mentality.
Absolutely. And it's like, I do this bit, and this is actually a true thing. My therapist told me of like, rather than saying, I'm sorry I'm late, say thank you for waiting. It's that same idea of like, okay, we got this. I'm going to, you can go, you can do it. Rather than, am I prepared? It's like statement, not a question. Yeah.
Thank you for waiting instead of I'm sorry I'm late.
Yes, it changes your whole perspective. Yeah.
And what do casting directors say when they hear that?
They go, we're running behind anyway. Every casting session is generally 45,000 years behind. And that's just how the business is. It's very fascinating because every actor shows up like 15 to 20 minutes early, generally speaking, because they're nervous about it. And then you wait there for an hour and a half for a 5-minute audition.
What's a role you really wanted but you didn't get?
Ooh, let me see here.
You knew this show on Fox was going to be a hit.
Oh, I haven't gotten up for anything that big yet, but I remember like, and I think this is one of those things of like growing up here and like doing a lot of community theater, and I would want every role because I was a hyperactive egotist because I was 16, and then they would inevitably go to other people because I can't play all the roles. That's why I became a stand-up. But I remember just being so disappointed that I didn't get to play Willy Wonka at one point, but I was like 16, so it wouldn't have made sense. But then they did cast me as Grandpa Joe, so that made less sense. But I went out for a commercial recently that I really, I went up for the new voice of Captain Morgan. They did not call me back, which was a bummer. But I would have loved to be that because I thought this sober person playing Captain Morgan would have been very funny. Yeah.
The ultimate FU.
Yeah, it's just like, listen, I'm going to sell you this stuff, but I'm not, don't get high in your own supply, man,
I mean, shout out to people, playing a role, flipping the script and putting on a front.
Yeah.
Shout out to that.
Yeah.
It's not like you couldn't play a really good drunk person.
Oh, sure.
For like Hangover 2 or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Where they really wanted you, and they're like, we need a dude. He's like 5'6". He's got hairy arms. He's got flowing hair. Goes to the left always, never to the right. Mm-hmm. We need him. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, we got a hurricane outside.
We really do. It's been really coming down, cats and dogs.
Shout out to Minnesota. You know how you know you're from Minnesota? You talk about the weather halfway through a podcast.
Yeah. That is correct. Absolutely.
Dude, I'm like, I am.
Whereas like in New York, if you're doing a podcast, a bomb could go off and they're like, oh, gotta edit that out. Shit. Say that joke again. Yeah.
No, I actively try to avoid it, especially as we get older, but it's like we still look at ourselves as like, no, I'm just the same freaking person. And when these people who are my age try to talk to me about the weather,
Oh, yeah.
it's like, bro, you got to chill.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's some validity to it. When it's like almost 100 degrees, you're like, this is terrible. But when it's just like, the only time I like talking about the weather is when it's nice out. I do this thing on Instagram where I will do on a story like, hey, guys, it's nice out. You should go out today. Because I'm big on like, you should get out at least once, just take a walk around the block, something, because it really helps, your body and your mind. But that's the only time. I try not to complain about it, but I try to take stock because you don't, like Kurt Vonnegut had this whole thing of like, you don't notice when things are nice. And so if you can take those little moments to appreciate them, your whole life is just like 10% better, which is still more than not.
Perspective shapes our existence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kurt Vonnegut, Slaughterhouse-Five. I had to read it in freshman year at college.
Yeah, there's this really great audiobook version written by Ethan Hawke.
Ooh.
Read by Ethan Hawke. But Ethan Hawke is one of those really whispery voices, and so it just sounds like ASMR the whole time. It's like Billy Pilgrim was floating through space, and it's just so soothing but so unsettling at the same time. It's perfect.
Man, the only time I'll talk about the weather is explaining why I'm pitting out. That's the only way.
Like, look around you, man. What do you think?
You feel it, dude. Look
Yeah.
at my upper lip. Mm-hmm. That's when I'll talk about the weather. So is there, when you're shaping out your act, is
Yeah.
it an hour, 45 minutes?
For this one, it's 45. Okay. I want to get it to an hour because I want to record an album off of it in a few years. But for Fringe Festival, the shows have to be like 55 most because you have to load in and load out, and they all have hour slots, and it's like really strict. So I went with 45. That way people like can be a little bit more gracious about exiting and stuff like that. And also, like, I don't want to overstay my welcome. I don't want to push too far.
Even the greats can go overstay their welcome.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I remember my first time ever seeing Joe Rogan down in Chicago. He did like an hour 35.
That's too long.
I was like, Brian Callen already did damn near an hour. He did like 45. And then whoever their opener was, it might have been Ian Edwards, he did a solid 35. It's like, bro, we're fresh off the street, buzzed up. Like, come on now. Like,
yeah. I have shit to do at home. I think comedy shows should only be about an hour and 15 minutes at most. Anything more than that, and you're really pushing an audience. There's that whole thing that a human attention span only lasts, in general, for 45 minutes, which is like why most movies are an hour and a half, and halfway through they change. So that's another reason I was like 45 minutes, because that way people will still be engaged and they won't check out.
our attention spans are shorter than ever.
Oh, yeah.
Even now, I heard growing up that for each year you are of age, that is the amount of minutes you have for an attention span. And I think that might be doing too much justice for me, because I ain't got 31 minutes to spare, dog. I do not got it.
I fully understand. There's something about, like, I can watch 7 TV episodes in a row, but if you ask me to watch one movie, I'm like, no, it's too much.
Meanwhile, that's 5.5 hours you'll never get back.
Yeah.
You just watched Titanic 1.5 times.
It's like, maybe this time. The second time, maybe the boat won't sink.
What's a movie that just changed your life?
Oh, I would say there's 2. The Fisher King by Terry Gilliam, which is about this, Robin Williams plays this homeless guy, and
Living in a boiler room.
Just being kind of a madcap. But it was one of those things of, like, it was a perfect blend of comedy and drama and, like, humanity. And it was one of the first dramas that I, quote unquote, that I really liked. The other one is this movie called Flushed Away. It's from Aardman, the people that did Chicken Run. And it's so silly and so light that whenever I was horrendously depressed, that's what I would watch, and it would kind of help to alleviate some of that pain.
Where were you when you saw Pulp Fiction for the first time?
Oh, it was this first year of school. We had like an AV room in our dorms, and my friend with whom I was going to school, I'd never seen it. Oh no, that's not true. I'd never seen the whole thing, but I saw the censored version on TV. This is actually
Buzzkill version.
Yeah, absolutely. But the scene with the gimp happened, and I was like, probably 8, and I was like, Dad, what are they doing? And they're like, oh, they're raping them. And luckily, I'd seen Roots with him the month before, and so he had to explain what rape was during that. And so I'm like, but they're both men. And he's like, yeah, sometimes that happens too. And then my mom comes in and goes, Herbert, you shouldn't even be watching that. Tristan, get out of there. And I was like, man, that Quentin Tarantino must be powerful, sinful. Even Dad's not supposed to watch the movies. And that's, I think, correct.
Herbert, your dad's name?
Herbert and Laura Lee, the most Midwestern. Herbert Frank Miller, the most Midwestern name I've ever heard in my life. Yeah.
Herb
Miller. Yes, it's fantastic. And somehow they got to Tristan. I don't know. Maybe every generation is supposed to improve. I don't know.
Dude, I have this laughing point that, eventually all of our favorite athletes are going to be named Caden and Gavin. So give it 15 years.
Absolutely.
While the African-American population, they keep that shit flashy. Mm-hmm. They're always going to be coming up with new names. Mm-hmm. Nope. Not white people.
Nope.
They're always going to be sitting with these basic-ass names, dude. Straight up.
Absolutely. And yeah. That's all I'll say about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kind of my favorite, though, is when people name their dogs human names.
Oh, sure. I like that. Or the complete opposite of this is my dog Toaster. There's this kid at the preschool that's named Scotland. And I'm like, you named your kid after a whole country? It's like, yes, this is my son, the United Arab Emirates.
It's rather brash.
Yeah,
it's kind of like,
presumptuous. Yeah,
this is my son Ireland. I promise he's never gonna drink whiskey.
Yeah,
ever.
There's no troubles here. It's fine. Yeah,
no trouble. That's the worst, dude. If you get pulled over and your name was Ireland McDonald or something like that, you're definitely getting a DUI test.
Absolutely,
for sure.
Yep, profiling goes both ways. Yeah.
This is my son China. He's a white boy, but his name is China. When we're mad at him, we call him Chinese. We got him all day, folks.
Yep.
So, what is in regards to the crowd you hang with in New York?
Yeah.
Beyond, your favorite pillow set and your sectional couch, like the crowd you hang out with.
Yeah.
Is it filled with other alternative comedians, traveling actresses, actors, musicians?
Mostly at this point, it's other comedians. And they're all it's kind of funny. The alt scene has really changed. You're in the 90s and early aughts, it meant you were really edgy and you were really sticking it to the man. And at this point, it's it just means you're nice. Because it's swung so far the opposite way. Because clubs, you're really, in the club scenes, you're they're really hammering it home and they're being kind of nasty. Whereas now they're I think puns are really funny. And so we're going to go over here and do our own show in a chess shop and it's going to be great. But yeah, all the comedians I hang out with are all really kind people. And I feel really lucky to have for the first time in my life, a really solid, good friend group of peers I respect. Because it's really hard when you're an artist, when you're just kind of around people, and then you slowly realize these people aren't going places. They're not putting in the effort.
I ask because when did you realize that comedians as a whole are just one big walking diagnosis?
Probably right away. Because once you start learning about symptoms, you're that's what that is. That's what that is. Do you know you have borderline personality disorder, Mark Maron? No. And yes, he does.
I just saw him.
Yeah.
I just saw him.
Oh, he's so good.
At the store in L.A.
Oh, yeah?
And, because he came on right after Rogan.
Yeah.
And
that's a killer lineup.
Dude, because, Chris D'Elia was on after Maron, and then you got Andrew Santino.
Mm-hmm. So weird. I saw an ad for that exact show.
Really?
Yeah.
It was badass. Yeah. It was when I was out there. And granted, it was my 4th or 5th time seeing Rogan, so that was just same old. It's always cool to see him doing new material with the same energy. Mm-hmm. But Maron comes out, and the guy is always a buzzkill. He's a walking buzzkill. He is why I think so many comedians continue to drink, because they don't want to get sober and end up like Mark Maron. I'm serious, dude.
That's a very funny, true thing, though. Yeah.
All the while, the dude had Obama pull up when he was a president.
Yeah.
To his garage to record a podcast.
And can I tell you, I think it's a similar thing of like the sensitivity. He's clearly a very sensitive person. And that makes him a really good interviewer. And I think a lot of his stand-up is very funny. Like More Later is almost perfect, but a lot of it is like kind of wandering into that one-man show area where you're like, oh, is this funny or just interesting?
He's an observant comedian.
Oh, yeah. He does observational comedy. It's just observations of his own psyche, you know? Yeah.
And it's fun, but like, dude, like he did make this one joke about being a cuck.
Yeah.
And like, if any comedian could be a cuck, it'd either be Brian Callen or Mark Maron.
Yeah.
In a nutshell. And I like that. That's why I like observational comedy. But like, dude,
sure.
Status updates. The best status updates are observations.
Oh, absolutely.
Where you're not complaining, you're being observational. And it might be motivational or it might be comedic.
Yeah.
No matter what, it's the shit. Yeah. That's what Twitter is, dude. It's a walking observation.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I agree.
Thank you. Thank you for agreeing with me.
You're quite welcome.
This is very good. We've had a very productive conversation, Mr. Miller.
Thank you. I think so, too. It's been very fun talking to you.
So what does your future hold?
I'm doing some dates around New York, so if you're in that area listening to that, please come to those. You can go to www.tristanjmiller.com and find all my updates there. But I'm doing this show coming up in New York one more time, and then hopefully some other places. And I have some auditions for some films, and I hope I can, they're little projects, but I'm hoping to swing back more into that.
You know, it'd be funny as hell is if you took your melodic self and went and tried to do comedy in Boston.
I have some friends that are in Boston. One of my good friends in New York, Mike Kaplan, he's from Boston.
Mikey?
Yeah, Mikey.
I just saw him open up for Duncan Trussell a few years ago.
He's so good. I don't use this word lightly. I think he's a genius. Like, I really do. He's operating on a level that is just completely different. But he's from Boston, so I understand Boston's very rough. But if he, Mike's pretty gentle and he's pretty silly. If he can make it in Boston, I think I could do it too.
Is he still using the soundboard?
No, he's not. I haven't seen him use the soundboard. I don't know that bit.
He had it. He just used it the entire time, and I guess that's what drew my version of him. Yeah. I was like, okay, he's a poor man's Reggie Watts.
I think there's Michael Kaplan and Mike Kaplan. MYQ?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I just have never seen him use a soundboard. That's really cool.
Really?
I'll have to ask him about it.
Yeah, ask him about it.
Yeah.
I hope we're talking about the same one because it was MYQ.
Yeah, I would assume so. He does music, so it would make sense that he would. I've just never seen him do that. It makes me excited.
And he'd play the piano or something, and then he'd stop, make an observation, and then keep going.
Oh, that's very fun. That's very fun.
But he wasn't looping anything like, say Reggie Watts would do.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got to let you go. You got to go get prepared. That was the most fluent and fluid robot I've ever seen.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're talking about weather again with those wind effects.
Yeah.
All right, brother. I appreciate you. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
This will be up on Wednesday.
Amazing.
Amazeballs.
Amazing. I'm so happy to be here in this country talking to you.
We reach a lot of people in the Twin Cities. So when are you going to be at Fringe Fest this week?
You can edit this fumbling out. It's on it's on Saturday and Sunday, the 10th and the 11th. I'm on the last day of Fringe Festival.
Okay.
Or is it the 9th? It's the 9th. I'm on the 9th at 5:30, and then the 11th at 8:30.
Where at?
It's called the Ritz Studio. It's in Northeast Minneapolis.
Northeast
There.
All right there, bud. Appreciate you.
Oh, for sure.